Hey everybody, it's Safi and Margot Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Margot here once again, and I am here today to review a very special kids film. Yes, another kids film. Because I think that, I don't know why most of these films in this topic about houses being saved are for kids, but maybe it's just because kids have a harder time with those types of situations. I guess, maybe, I don't know. Uh, but I am here today to review a Moonbeam entertainment movie called Beanstalk. And this is a movie that I really loved as a kid. I would watch this movie whenever I got a chance to rent it, and I wasn't like ashamed. Like usually as a kid, I was really ashamed of watching these kiddish films because I was just so used to watching horror films, and so I didn't really like watching regular kids films at all. This was one of the exceptions, and I loved it so much that I ended up getting it on VHS, and so I still have it in this green clamshell case, and it's green like the color of the beanstalk in the movie. I really, I really like this movie a lot. It's basically like a soft reboot of the Jack and the Beanstalk story. So it's like the Force Awakens of the Beanstalk universe, I guess you could say, but it's done well. It's done really, really well. I know it's gotten a lot of hate over the years, which is strange because, there's such worse movies in relation to this story. Like you have that Jack the Giant Slayer movie, and you have things like that like, oh, go hate on that movie, and leave this smaller movie Beanstalk alone, because this is really, really good. So it's such an insane story too. There are a couple of weird plot points that, like, when I was a kid I really didn't notice these weird plot points, but now that I'm an adult I really notice them, and so I do have to admit that. And there are a couple little other plot issues that I have, but overall I really do like this movie. First off, you have, I would say, one of the highlights of the film, Margot Kidder. She plays this insane, batshit crazy, I don't know even what to call her, like an archaeologist, hunter, like she's like the Van Helsing of giants and super, I don't know. Like this movie, she, I, I never really knew that was Margot Kidder as a kid. When I was a kid, I just thought, I literally didn't even know that was a woman. I thought it was like some older guy or something. Like would never have guessed that it was Margot Kidder playing the role. So that's number one. Number two, she goes insane in this movie. She wears an astronaut uniform and she runs around spraying people with sleep gas. She puts on like a Bigfoot costume fit with the like a furry costume with the furry makeup on her face. It is hilarious. And the movie opens up with, there's this construction worker in her trailer, and and it's so funny because she jumps into frame and she's like getting ready to attack him, and he's like, I just want to know what we're digging for. I don't know what we're doing out here, just digging and digging in the middle of nowhere. And she's like, I think there's a giant underneath here or something. There's something under there. And so then he goes outside, and of course they all quit. And then she discovers the skull of the original giant from the original Jack and the Beanstalk story. And then, of course, you have Jack. Jack in this movie, he is one of the biggest problems of the movie because he is very, very unlikable. He's basically, the only reason you really like him is because he's a kid, so you feel bad that he's in this terrible situation with his mom. But other than that, like, he's really annoying. He's sort of like Cartman, if Cartman wasn't fat, Cartman from South Park. There's this bully in the movie, and the bully is actually a more intelligent and more mature human being than Jack. And so I really thought that was an issue. And there was this thing that Jack did the whole movie that I really thought was kind of lame. And that was that he would get these ideas for schemes and he would record them on tape recorders. And it was basically all just set up because he would say things about characters in the film, and then those characters would listen back to what he says. And like, oh, that's the purpose behind him doing the tape recorder thing. It really didn't work. They could have just showed him like doing actual schemes around the town, and that would have been so much better. It would have been, visual storytelling and not this, I got a tape recorder. Big idea, number 5, make a better movie. Big idea, number 6, I don't know. I don't know what big idea number 6 is. You guys are going to have to tell me for yourselves in the comment section. And then there's also a love interest for him, but we'll talk about her pretty soon because her character is one of the I would say she might be the biggest issue with the whole film. Not her as an actress, but just the character. And so, yeah, he lives with his mom, and his mom, she's a waitress. She can't pay the house's mortgage, and, it's terrible. Like, the power's shut off, and, they don't really have much to eat, and it's very terrible. And what happens is, on the way home, he's taking China home for some reason. I don't know why. And I guess to sell it, but like, where is he taking it from? I don't know. And what happens is Margot Kidder is driving along the road, and one of the pieces of China gets in the road, and he picks it up, and then she pulls over and crashes, and it knocks over one of those big beans from the Beanstalk and the location of the original Jack and the Beanstalk story. And so then Jack takes that crate and then he plants one, or he just puts one on the ground in the backyard, and then of course a beanstalk grows. And at first you think, oh, this is really positive because, like with Beetlejuice, oh, maybe the family will be nice and they won't ruin the house and destroy it because, they'll have this ghost show. And then in this case, they'll have this beanstalk attraction, and they said that it helped the whole town. It gave the whole town jobs and prosperity by having this circus type of event for people to come and look at the beanstalk. And then it's like, no, that there's this greedy, evil developer, and he is the same guy who was in Wicked Stepmother playing that private detective, and he's really, really good. I really like him a lot. In this movie, he's okay. He doesn't really get that many jokes. There's this one funny joke where Jack calls him Lurch, and I thought that was funny. And so he wants to destroy the whole town and flood it so that he can build houses around the water in the town. I mean, very bizarre plan, but it's fine. You know, it's fine. Who cares? He's bad. That's the point. And so he kicks out the family anyway, and he then acts like, oh, the Beanstalk was actually illegal and blah 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 blah. So he ruins everything, leaving Jack no choice but to climb the Beanstalk. And one of the things that I loved about the movie was all the plot twists on the original story. I really loved how Jack has this quote-unquote bully, which the bully is the kid from The Sandlot, and that was another great thing was, you know, he's a great actor, and so it was great to see him in this movie. He really elevated it. He tricks the bully into coming with him too, and it's like this funny thing where, you know, he's chasing after Jack while climbing this huge beanstalk, and you just think about how scary that would be. And it was so funny how they climbed it together, and, you know, they went there together, and it wasn't just Jack. Because that's something that I always thought about with the original story, was that if you were to go to a giant's house, like, it really, to me, it's almost like a horror story. And, like, to think about, like, these giants lurking around this castle, these dark corridors and things, I wouldn't want to go there alone. You know, I really wouldn't at all. So it was cool how he took someone there. And at the same time, you have all this business going down on Earth. You have his mom and Margot Kidder. They're trying to help get back Jack. And then you have the developer. He wants to destroy the beanstalk immediately. And that's pretty much the rest of the movie, is you have Jack and the bully, and they're up there with the giants. And so that is another... this is where we get to the best part of the movie. The giants in this movie are fantastic. They go up there, and it's basically this really weird family that, like, they're so funny, they're so great. It's such a funny thing to watch, especially the father, who was, you know, it's funny because he was in Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, and he was in that where he turns into a small person. So it was funny that in this movie he plays a giant, and he plays the main one, and he did such an incredible job. Like, I couldn't imagine anyone else ever playing this character again. Like, even for the original story, I would say, like, this guy, he was perfect. He did such a great job. There were so many funny moments with him, like the moment where he's in the workshop, and he's got these Barbie dolls, and he has the humans' clothes dressed on them, which, you know, that's because of another thing that happens, obviously. And he's, like, torturing them, and he takes one of them, and he puts it in a mouse trap, and then he pulls the head off of the doll, and he starts eating it, and then he spits it out. And then he takes the other doll, and he puts it on this sticky mat on the ground, and he's playing with that. But then the funniest thing is that then he gets his hands trapped in both mouse traps, and then he stands up and gets caught in the sticky block on the ground, and so he's just, like, stumbling around. I thought that was hilarious. I mean, absolutely hilarious. Everything with him in this movie was just like comedy gold. And they really made the giants look ugly too. I mean, especially the daughter. The daughter, the daughter looks like an old woman. It's so hilarious. She has this, like, gray hair, and it's in, like, like a ponytail type thing, and she's got these, like, old women clothes on. She just looks so like an old woman, and then the mom looks like a young, like blonde bimbo housewife type of character. And so it's funny, like the contrast between them, having the adults look younger than their kids. I thought that was hilarious. And there's this funny plot about how in the Giants world, everything is different. And that's the thing that I really loved about the movie the most, was they created this mythology for the Giants world. And that's another thing that I thought about when I read the story as a kid, was that, this is just this one castle. What's the rest of the world like up there with all these giants? And so I really liked they had this mythology where nobody believes in humans in the giant world. It's basically like conspiracy, quote-unquote theories, aka conspiracy facts. And so the whole movie, everyone doesn't believe the father that he saw these humans. And so I thought that was hilarious, him trying to prove that he was serious and he was right. And there's a really, really funny part. Probably, I would say, though, my favorite part of the movie is at the end. So after everything in the movie has happened and everything is back to normal, we see the giant's daughter, and the daughter's just standing there with her Barbie dolls that have been destroyed, and she's like crying, and it's so funny. Like she's like, her father just completely like destroyed and tortured her own toys, and I thought that was great. So a lot of the movie is Jack and his bully trying to escape from the giant while also trying to get money so that they can get the house back. But the thing is that I really think that the one big problem with the whole story is that, the original was a very, very classic story where you have these poor characters, they need money, and then, they trade the cows for the bean, and then the bean grows into a stalk, and then they go into the giant's castle and get all the gold, and so they don't need money ever again because they stole this gold and stuff from the giant. That's the whole story. And in this movie, they don't get anything from the giant. In fact, Jack actually lures the giant down to Earth, and he releases the giant onto Earth indirectly, and he's like Godzilla. And so that was like a very bizarre thing, and a thing that I think could have been better, because there really wasn't any plot resolution to the problem of Jack and his mom needing their house back that evil Lurch developer took away from them. And so other things about the movie, the bully was really, really good, and that was another issue, is the fact that the bully, he was actually smarter than the main character. He got straight A's on his report card, and his mom's an English teacher, and so he knows all this classic literature. I also thought that was kind of a missed opportunity, because I really thought that his knowledge of some of these stories would help him into getting out of this story. I thought maybe he's gonna use some trick from that book, or some maybe persuasion from that book, or maybe just something. And instead, he just uses it to taunt Jack. And they have the stupid back and forth where, they've got literal giants running around, and they could be cannibalized any second. And instead of worrying about that, they worry about each other, and it's just really stupid. So another big issue with the film is the love interest. Jack has this like really random love interest who pops up at the beginning and the end. And she looks like Wendy from Casper Meets Wendy. And she even wears like a red hoodie. And it seems like she likes him at first, but then she literally disappears for the rest of the movie. And she doesn't even come in again until the very end. And so I thought that was a big waste of time, her character. Like, her character just is in 2 scenes of the movie, and, like, at the end of the movie, all she does is she's like, hey, Jack, you want to play catch? And keep in mind, she's, like, 13 years old, and she's like, wanna play baseball catch? And then she throws the ball on the detonator for the bomb. And it's like, this is just stupid. This character... It's too bad because, they could have had 3 characters go up the beanstalk. And see, that's where I was really disappointed, was at the end. Because at the end, they really rush everything to an end. Like they do with these full moon movies, where you can't go past an hour and 20 minutes because it's a small movie. And small movies aren't allowed to do that. Big movies, they can go to 3 hours, but us smaller movies, we have to stay at this formula forever. Like that's the unfortunate thing about these full moonbeam movies, is that they sort of cut themselves short. And this movie especially, where it literally felt like it cuts off at the end in this weird place where nothing is really resolved. The only thing that's resolved is that the beanstalk is not on the giant's world anymore. And then also, though, the giants do have a picture of a human. And so they do have definitive proof, but of course, that'll just be called fake. In fact, there was another funny part where the giant was looking at this book about humans. And it was like a conspiracy book, and there was a picture of an astronaut, and he said, humans, they really are all white, and they have one big eye, and they have these long tails, and I think they taste like chicken. Like there were so many funny things with him. He was just the greatest. So the movie really cuts off, very abrupt ending. And then the final confrontation between Jack and the giant is also cut short and very fake. It looks terribly fake at the end, where the giant is running around town, and it just looks like he's on a stage. It looks fake. It looks terrible. And Jack runs into like a random bank, and somehow he's able to get to like an executive floor, and then he fights with the giant. He throws like a gummy boy into his mouth, like it's supposed to hurt him. And then after that doesn't work, he gets the American flag, and then he spears him in the hand, and then that makes him go, don't hurt me. And so I thought that was kind of weak. But then again, it's a kid's movie. But still, there were a couple of parts like that were really disappointing. Like, okay, they're not going to get any gold. Jack isn't going to slay the giant. I mean, this is just stupid. But at the same time, it was very entertaining. Like, there were some I had so many laughs this movie. It's definitely a top-tier kids' film. It's just that you have to realize that some kids' movies, they're just kids' movies. Other kids' movies, they're for everyone. Like The Goonies, which I'll be reviewing soon. That's a movie made for everyone. In comparison to this, where it's very kiddish at certain points. And so that kind of brings the movie down. However, I did really love the giants. I love the mythology they created. And so I appreciate that. So, in terms of food, I would have to say that this movie, it's a lot like when you have chili that's a very simple chili. Instead of having the usual chili recipe where it has kidney beans, tomato, beef, green pepper, all that stuff. It's just the boring chili with beans and beef, and that's it. And I really hate that type of chili, unless it's like on a chili dog. In that case, it's fine. But that's what this movie is. It's very straightforward, and it's just like, you know what it is when you're watching it, when you're eating it. And so that's what this movie is: simple chili. And so please like, comment, and subscribe. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.